Shall we start with Shimon?
تمام يا دكتور، اتفضلي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام، ازيك يا دكتور؟
حضراتكم إن شاء الله حضراتكم طيبين.
حضرتك بخير يا
Welcome
رب.
in this module. أهلا وسهلا بكم and welcome everybody. Welcome to this module which is called the scholarship module. We'll start our first presentation today and we will continue inshallah next Sunday. And my name is Amal Hashish. I'm professor of surgery and medical education. And our subject today is very important actually. And we are going to talk about the art and science of doing scientific research. So we are going to revise, we are going to update, and we are going to upgrade our knowledge in every aspect of scientific research. Actually, our agenda is very long. We are going to cover most of these items, like doing how to do research and definition of research and how to write your research question and how to formulate it in a good way. And we are going to understand what are the different types of research design and the points of weakness and strengths of every one of them. We will know idea about how to collect data for your research, and this is for today. For the next Sunday, inshallah, we are going to highlight the points of how to write your scientific project or your scientific research, starting from writing the title till writing the conclusion. And this is called the anatomy and physiology of writing a scientific research. So now we have two sessions, today's session and the next week's session. And as I said, we are going to start from having an idea for your research project or research article, and we will go through every part of it until publication of your research. So let us ask this question: why we have to study or to know an idea about research? Actually, because we are, as a healthcare providers, we're supposed to be clinicians, educators, but research scientist is our main task. And we need our research in the as a FEMA project or in your institution for upgrading or for helping patients, etc. But specifically in the medical education, actually scientific research is considered the main pillar in medical education. That's why medical education is countable through its education research. So our today's agenda, we are going to discuss the basic steps of doing scientific research, and we will know how to formulate your research question. We will understand the different types of study design. We will revise everything, either qualitative, quantitative, or mixed type of research. And we are going to highlight how to collect data for your research. Also, we are going to cover the new data of how to use artificial intelligence in your research step by step. So before starting, we will have 3 minutes for brainstorming. I want you to think about these terms. What is meant by research question? What is a cross-sectional study? What is an indicative title? What is a grounded theory? What is FINER and MRID stand for? What is ethnography? What is a cohort study? What is authorship? What is the gray literature? What is the longitudinal study? And what is a randomized controlled trial? So take 3 minutes to think about it, and we will open the floor for any comments or any highlight or any inquiry even for these terms. So you will have 3 minutes. So anybody wants to share, you can raise your hand and share with us your ideas or your opinion about these different types of terms. So the stage is yours. Dr. Amira?
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
Okay, I can choose any of them to answer or
You can
حضرتك
choose whatever you
هتختاري؟
want. No, you can choose anyone.
Okay, for gray literature, we mean the unofficial literature, other published in official journals. It can be any data from websites, news, reports, governmental reports, or other types of. For indicative title, it is like all information. Once you read it, you are informative about most important details. What is the design, when, where, why, and how, and indicative. It's sufficient to get a sufficient idea about the whole topic. For cross-sectional study, it's a snapshot, point of time.
Thank you, Dr.
conducted
Amira. Dr. Amira, thank you. So we'll give a chance
Okay.
for our colleague. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank
Dr.
you.
Gamal, thank you so much. Dr. Gamal.
Hello, Dr. Hello, everyone. About cross-sectional study, it is a type of study that focus on a data or at a single point of time and may examine the prevalence of an outcome of the observational study.
Thank you so much. Dr. Noon.
Okay, hello. I would like to go with the IMRAC part, which is related to different sections in the research or chapters. The first I is introduction, the M is for methodology, R for result, and A for and D for discussion.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or opinion or any definition?
Yes, hi, this is Dr. Saumitri. And
Yes.
I would like to talk about the finer part that has been mentioned. It is a criteria which is actually used to know the quality of the research or how useful it is actually. So like it stands, so F stands for if the feasibility of the research, and if it is I is for the interesting part of it, and N stands for the novelty of the research, and next is E is the ethical part, and then is the R, that is if it is relevant or not. So that is the part of finer for research.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saumitri. Any other opinion or comments or sharing?
Dr. Abir,
Yes, please.
about the research question, it could be explanatory to, for example, what is the cause of something, or explanatory, what is the effect of something, or to be comparative, to compare between different things.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abir. Thank you so much. Any other opinion or definitions?
Good evening, Dr. Amal.
Good evening.
Authorship, I think it is the credit for the individuals who are writing the research, taking part in it, in its execution or performance.
Yes. So this includes the name of the authors.
Not
Right.
not only those who wrote it, or all who participated in developing the research.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Any other opinion or definitions?
Hello, Dr. Amal.
Hello.
I think ethnography is the research is studying special community or studying the behavior or people of special race or ethnic group.
Excellent. What type of research do you think? Is it quantitative research or qualitative research or mixed type of research?
I think it could be it's qualitative mainly.
Qualitative research, yes. Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your participation. We are going to cover everything in this list today and next week, inshallah, and we will cover actually more terms and more ideas about doing research. So let us get started. We'll start our journey. This is a very interesting journey, and we will talk about how to start your research. What are the steps of doing your research? What do you think? How to start your research? Anybody want to share?
We have a question or idea?
We'll
to-
have an idea.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. So in order to start our research, actually we have steps for doing our research. But at the very beginning, we need to have an idea, which is called the research idea. After having the idea, we'll move to the next step, which is formulation of our research question. After that, we have to decide which type of research design we are going to choose. And after that, we will decide what kind of data we are going to collect. And then we will think about how to analyze this data. And after that, we will think about how to write our research. And after that, of course, publication of our research. So let us start with a very first idea. So in order to have an idea, from where did you get your idea? In your project, from where did you get the idea of your project, of the FEMA project?
I think from a problem
Yeah.
I
to
have noticed.
Yes.
So you notice a problem. What else?
Observation, from observation.
Yes, excellent. From observation. What else?
Identifying gaps.
Yes, of the gaps. From where did you get the gap? How did you get a gap?
By like looking like into years of like just say observation only, I think so. Yes. By observing.
Can you elaborate more about what is meant by gap?
Identifying gaps in the sense like in every year when you see a same pattern of whatever is happening, and then you can identify, no, this is missing the knowledge or the skill which we need to implement.
Yes, excellent. So you said a very important word, which is missing. Something is missing. Something is missing in the previous research. So you want to fill this gap. And this is what is called the gap, the research gap. So let us take it step by step. In order to have an idea, you are going to have, or you had your idea from reading literature, from careful observation, from keeping imagination roaming, from your previous experience, from scientific communication with your colleagues or your superiors, etc., or serendipity, or you can have an idea from the AI, and we will talk about that. So now the artificial intelligence, if you don't have any idea and you can't have any idea, you can ask the artificial intelligence. And there are many tools which is called for idea generation. So let us highlight a bit more about how to use artificial intelligence in the very beginning of our research. Actually, artificial intelligence now became a game changer in the research field. And if you know about artificial intelligence, whoever interested, it is the ability of the machine to imitate human brain function, to learn, and to solve a problem. And as regards artificial intelligence, how it works actually through data. They feed the machine with enormous amount of data and enormous amount of coding system, and then the machine collects the data, and in a sort of some algorithms, it give you the answer of whatever you want. So this is the simple idea about artificial intelligence, because we are not going to spend some time for talking about artificial intelligence. It needs a lot of time, actually. And as you all know, there are many, many, many tools of artificial intelligence. Some of them are specific for the research, and some of them are for the marketing, for the video making, for whatever, for anything, for answering questions, etc. We have many tools for research, and the most famous one is the ChatGPT. Though it is not the best for research, but it is the first one, and GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So ChatGPT is one of the tools you can use for doing research, but actually I don't prefer it because there are many tools that exceed ChatGPT in doing research. So in order to get access to any one of these tools of artificial intelligence, just write the name of whatever tool in any web browser like Google, Firefox, etc. And this is the front page of the ChatGPT. You will find at the bottom a place where you write your prompt, which is the request that you are going to ask for ChatGPT or any other tool to answer your question. So you write your prompt, and I will give you an example of that. Also, you can use the Gemini, which previously called Bard. You can use Gemini, as I said. You can use any other tool to have an access for your research. You can use Cite. You can use AI Idea Generator. You can use any of these research in order to have your research idea. So this is an example of prompt. I tried to put it in one of these tools in order to have ideas for research. For example, I'm a pediatric surgeon and I'm interested in idiopathic constipation in children. I want to do a research in this area, but I don't have many ideas for that. I want a new ideas or updated ideas for this one. So I wrote this prompt. I'm a pediatric surgeon and I want a research idea about new trends in management of idiopathic constipation in children. So this is my prompt. It's a simple prompt, but it could be more complicated than that. This is just for example. So, and I have a list of suggestions and ideas in the ideas that I give it to him. So, for example, it gives me an idea about how to investigate the effectiveness of early identification protocol. It gives me an idea about how to use the dietary intervention. It gives me an idea about how to treat these children and add some psychological factor in their treatment. It gives me ideas about the effectiveness of many pharmacological treatment, etc. So many ideas you can find can give you tens or hundreds of ideas about the title that you want. So this is how to get an idea. So now, if you can find a problem, if you don't have a problem, so we can ask the artificial intelligence to help us in order to have an idea. So now I have an idea, a research idea. So what is your next step? What do you think? What I should do in order to move to my next step?
I do a literature review.
I do a literature review. Excellent. Before doing extensive literature review, I have to read about the subject, okay? So I have to read everything about the subject that I choose because I don't want to have a repetition of the knowledge that had been discussed before. So I have to read everything. I have to read as much as I can. I have to read backwards. I have to read the updated literature. I have to read the relevant literature, and I have to read the most influential papers. Okay? And now we are going to have the definitions. I have to read what is primary literature, secondary literature, tertiary literature, and grade literature. I have to collect idea about my idea, collect all the knowledge about my idea. This collection of data will help me to decide, am I going to go through my research to complete it, or I have to choose another point? So Primary literature is a literature that is present in all the magazines and scientific magazines, and it is the original literature. Secondary literature is the data that is present in the systematic review and meta-analysis, etc. And tertiary literature are data or information that are found in the books or textbooks or in the encyclopedia, etc. And rare literature, as Dr. Amira said, it is a non-published literature, which is like the annual faculty report, the hospital report, the patient file, etc. So I have to read everything in order to have a holistic idea about the research that I'm going to do, because this step is very important, because it's going to decide or to help me to decide, am I going to continue in this research, or I have to change my idea and think about any other point, okay? So the good research idea should be clear, important, interesting, impactful, doable, novel, and feasible. And these are the criteria of a good research idea. So now I have my research idea. I'm convinced about this research idea, and I want to continue my research. So what is my next step?
I should be starting to plan for the methodology.
Okay, excellent. But before planning for the methodology, I have to read again. I have to do an extensive literature search again. This is very important. So I have to read 2 times. The first time is after having an idea in order to convince myself that this is a good idea. And in the second time, in order to collect the data, all the data about my idea, in all this data or literature search will help me to decide what type of study I'm going to do, what is the methodology, and what about the research, the sample size. It will give me an idea about what other people did in order to achieve their goals. So it will help me to decide what I'm going to do in a more precise way. So literature search is a process of searching for information related to your research topic across multiple database and information resources. And literature search could be manual, and usually we did that in the past, but now it is an electronic. You can use the PubMed, the MPACE, the Cochrane library, many places you can use for doing literature search. So this is called the search engine. The electronic literature search is called the search engine, which is a software system designed to find information in the worldwide web. So it will catalogs web pages, images, videos, etc. about your idea, and will give you many idea about what other players did in this point specifically. So this is a list of places which you can search in, but this is in the medical field, and we have also many other places. In order to search for literature, we can use just the title. For example, as I said, abstract, the Hirschsprung disease, or flipped classroom, or problem-based learning, or team-based learning, or whatever. But in the medical subject, we use what is called the MESH, which is medical subject heading. And this is a national library for medicine. They use some vocabulary in order to help you for searching for your research. And I don't want to go through this complicated issue, which is Pauline operator. If anybody is interested in it, we can explain it in a separate way. So now literature research or search is considered the most difficult, most time-consuming, and most challenging part in doing research. I have to spend a lot of time in order to find a researchable point. And actually, as surgeons say, I have to think twice and cut once. So spend time for finding a good point to do research, because if you start research and then you find that it is not eligible to do it, so it will be a good problem. But now we are facing a very major problem. What is that? Is that the research articles are enormous amount. There are many research articles. There are thousands and millions of research articles. And sometimes you can find it is very difficult to access various academic literatures. So now we will go back to the artificial intelligence. So there are many tools that can help you to find many literatures that you can't find it easily in the search engine. So the first site is called the Let Maps. Let Maps is very interesting one. It gives you like a map to find many papers. For example, here in the bar, I will give the title of any paper that I find. And then you will find that the Let Maps will give you all the related articles to the article that you give. For example, the black one near the red arrow, this is the title that I uploaded or I requested that the Let Maps give me the map about it. So it will give you all these maps that you can see is about the related article to the article that I requested. And now you can move this arrow to this one, to the other one, and it will give you also this article to read it, and you can move to any place of this map that you can read everything. So it will facilitate to find many subjects. Also, the second side, which is very important, is a connected paper, but this is a paid one. It will give you also maps about the different articles that are related to each other. Another one is a consensus. Consensus, this is an AI search engine for research. It is specific for research. If you just upload the title of any research, it will give you what is related to this title. It will facilitate very much searching for any subject. Also, we have the Research Rabbit. I prefer this one. Research Rabbit is one of the very important searching engines in research. For example, if you write your title at the arrow here, or even you can put the DOI of the paper that you want, it will give you a library. So you can add paper at your library, and it will give you an explanation for this work, and will give you another paper that is similar to this work. It will give you all references that is related to what you request and all citation. And this is the map that is the Rabbit give it to you. Also, we have what is called the OpenRead. OpenRead is a very important one. OpenRead will tell you that I am old. This cat is called old. And in OpenRead, there are more than 300 million paper, which is uploaded in this site in every field. So if you want to ask about any type of paper, you can just write the DOI of the paper, or you can write the title of the paper, and it will give you the basic information of any paper. It can give you a graph for a related paper like this one. These are the graphs, and you can focus on any of these paper and you can read it separately. And even you can ask for what is called the paper espresso, which is a summary of these papers that you choose. And you can choose one paper and ask a question. This is paper Q and A. You can ask question about any paper and will give you an idea. And this is the paper espresso. This is the summary of the papers that I requested. It gives me the methodology in 3 lines. It gives me the result in 3 lines, the discussion and interpretation in 3 lines, etc. So it is very important one. We have also another site which give you, it's called Paper GPT. This can give you the best 10 articles in the subject that you want. So we have many places to search for papers, like Elicit, like Consensus, etc. So choose whatever is convenient to you, and you can choose it. I prefer the Research Rabbit and the OpenRead. You can use Jenny, etc. Again, we have another problem here. The problem is that you cannot read all these papers. So what you are going to do, AI can help me to summarize these articles. It can help me to give me the abstract of these papers in order we don't have any time to read all these papers. So, for example, one of the best places for summary, the OpenRead and OAT can summarize, but the chat doc, if you have a PDF file, you can just drag and drop your PDF file in this square, and it will summarize any paper that you want. And this is the paper, this is illicit. You have also chat doc, and you have explain paper. Explain paper is very interesting, that it can explain the paper at different levels. For example, if you ask him to explain the paper at the level of a student, it will explain it. If it explains the paper at the level of a professor, it will explain it, etc. So it is very interesting. It defines the level to explain the paper, whatever you want. As I said, we have illicit, we have article summarizer, we have open read, we have Humata, many sites for summarizing the paper. So now we have an idea. We read everything about the idea. I'm convinced about the idea. So I will start my research. I want to read more about my research in order to decide what is the methodology, what type of research, what is the gap. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to focus my research. I have to choose one point to focus on what is called the gap in the literature. So what is the gap in the literature? It is what idea seems to go unexplained, or what question seems to go unanswered, or what is the defect in other papers in order to start my research in. So finding a researchable issue is very important, and actually it is not easy. So as I said, we have to spend some time in order to find what I'm going to do. And after that, having research idea, do literature research, and having AI for help. If I like the idea and I decided to do my research in this part, I will start the second step of doing my research, which is called writing my research question. So now it's your turn. What is a research question and how to write it? Any participation?
I think it relies upon the hypothesis, or to answer a question upon a hypothesis I want to search about, or I want to solve a special problem, or
Okay, it is hypothesis that I want to discuss, or maybe the objective.
yes,
My
yeah.
research, yeah. It is the best way to say the research question. It is the objective of my research, or it is the goal of my research, what is the aim of my research, or the questions that I want to answer during doing my research. So how to write the research question? What is the best and simple way to write my research question? Any ideas? Okay.
Smart.
Yes? Pardon me?
Smart to be specific,
Yes, to be specific.
clear, focus the question.
Yes, yes, excellent. This is part of the criteria of doing research question. But how to write it? We are using another one, another idiom. Anyway, research question is a question which is clear, concise, complex, focused, and arguable question, which express what the research project aim to address. Or in a simple way, you can say it. A research question is a question that you want to answer upon doing your research. It is the aim of your research, or it is the objective of your research. Now, how to formulate our research question? There are many ways, but the simplest way and the most professional way is to use the PICOT. The PICOT is the one that, or PICOTs, that we use in the evidence-based medicine. So in order to formulate my research question, I have to define what is the population that I'm going to work on, what kind of intervention, if there is any counter intervention, comparison, or etc. What is the outcomes that I'm expecting? What is the time frame of my research? And if there is any study design I have to highlight. So if I mentioned all these PICOT or PICOTs in my research question, it will be okay. And why it is very important to write your research question? because it will guide you in all steps of your research. And you have to write this research question in the introduction part, in the material method part, in the result part, and in the discussion part. So it is very important to formulate it in a very professional way. So this is a research question. This is an example of research question. For students undergoing an end-round exam in pediatric surgery, does OSCE compared with conventional clinical exam lead to achievement of better score as assessed by randomized controlled trial? So let us put it in a picot or picots. Who is the P? Who is the population here?
The students undergoing the exam.
Yes, so the student is the P. So who is the I? What is the intervention?
The OSCE exam.
We have two interventions. Group of them will have OSCE and the other group will have conventional clinical exam. Okay, so this is
Yes.
pi C. So C is a comparison. Is there any comparison in this study?
Yes.
Yes, you are going to compare two groups. So pi C, pi O. What is the O? What is the outcome?
The student marks.
Student marks. Okay. The T is the time frame. It is the end exam, so no need for T. S, what is the study design? It is a randomized controlled trial. So this is how to write your research question. Population, intervention, comparison, the time factor, or the outcome. If there is any comparison, you have to highlight it. Sometimes you don't need to write the comparison because if you don't have any comparison, or you don't need to write the study design if you are confused about the study design. There is another way to write your research question is to use what, how, where, and when. For example, does implementation of competency-based education for undergraduate medical students at Egyptian universities improve their performance in clinical approach? This is a research question, and we are using here what, why, how, where, and when. Actually, most of the researchers prefer the first one. It's to use the picot or the picots because it's more easier. You cannot miss anything, and it is very easy in defining your research question. And again, we will emphasize what Dr. Sumera said. Criteria for good research question is finer. It should be feasible. It should be interesting. It should be novel idea. It should be ethical, and it should be relevant. So these are the criteria of a good research question. Okay. So now I had an idea for my research. I read everything about my research. I decided to continue in this research. I have literature search to define the gap, and then I started to write my research question, and I have to revise my research question because criteria of a bad research question is number one is vagueness. Too broad research question is a bad research question. A relevant research question is a bad research question. It should be appropriate. It should be of good cost. You cannot do research if you have limited resources, and we have to put in consideration the ethical point of view. So now I finished my research question. What is next? I have to evaluate again my research question. Is it clear? Is it focused? Is it complex? Is it finer? I have to revise it many times. Why we have to revise and put a very important task on research question? Because actually research question, it focuses the study. It will determine the population that you are going to work on. It determines the methodology. It determines the kind of data that you are going to collect. It will determine the time frame of your study. And actually, it will guide you through all steps of your research. That's why we consider the research question as a methodological point of departure of any research. If you start your research by doing a good research question, you will have a good research after that. So now, if there is a problem in writing my research question, again, we can have the help of artificial intelligence tool to write our research question. But of course, we have to revise everything. So any site that I mentioned, you can just put your idea and tell the AI, I want a research question about this idea. And of course, you cannot take it for granted. You have to revise it many times. You can take it or to leave it. So we can use the open read. I recommend the open read or the perplexity in order to write your research question and to have to revise it very carefully. So in this part, the take-home message of this part is that we are going to start our research by research idea. And at this point, we have to write a good research question. And then we will move after that to our next step in doing research, which is the selecting the research method that we are going to follow. And as we said, we used the AI many times in order to reach this step in our journey. I will stop here. We will have 15 minutes for Maghrib pray, and we'll come back. Now it is 7:45. We'll come back at 8 o'clock to continue our journey in doing research. Is there any question
Okay.
before?
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Sir Shaiman. السلام عليكم Sir Shaiman.
عليكم السلام يا دكتور.
presentation التانية واضحة؟
يا دكتور واضحة.
طب اوكي.
ماشي اوكي.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم
Let's
السلام ورحمة
continue.
الله وبركاته.
Okay, let us continue our journey. Now we are going to move to the following step of doing research, which is a research methodology. Is to choose what type of research that I'm going to do. And actually, the research methodology is the science of studying how research is done scientifically. And there are many classifications for doing research, many classifications for research design. Some people are classifying it into primary and secondary, experimental, non-experimental, quantitative, qualitative, etc. You can find many classifications for that, but actually we prefer this classification because it is easy and it is doable and it is palatable at the same time. So we are classifying the research design into 2 or 3 main groups: the qualitative type of research, the quantitative type, and the mixed type of research. So now what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative? From its name, qualitative type is a narrative type of research. It's all about telling text. There is no numbers in this one. But in the quantitative type, there is numbers and there is a statistical analysis and there are many computational result or computational process for this one. So the qualitative is concerned with the textual data and the quantitative is concerned with the numerical data. And actually, qualitative can make observation, but it cannot prove any theory. But for the quantitative one, it makes observation and also it can be used to test the theory and to prove any theory. So let us go through every one of them. So we'll start with the quantitative data collection data, quantitative research. So quantitative research is a structured way of collecting and analyzing data obtained from different sources, and usually it involves the use of computational, statistical, and mathematical tools to do this research. And actually, quantitative research is classified into 2 main types: the observational one and the experimental one. And the observational one is subdivided into a descriptive group and analytical group. We will go through every one of them quickly. We'll just do a revision. So as regards observational, as we said, it is subdivided into descriptive group and analytical group. So in the descriptive group, which means from its name that you are going to describe something. And in this part, it looks like some study for the qualitative type, and we'll talk about it later on. So in the descriptive group, it includes the case study, the case series, and the case and the cross-sectional study. Again, in the analytical group, we will have the cohort study, the case control study, and again, the cross-sectional study. So let us report or highlight one of them individually. So in case study, you usually write a comment about uncommon situation, uncommon disease, emergent disease, unexpected something that's happened, unexpected events or adverse events, etc. If these cases are fewer than 10 patients, we are calling this case study or case report. If it is more than this number, it is called the case series. And of course, there is no comparison in these studies, so there is no control group. And this is a simple example. If you are teaching a group of students, any class, any module, for example, the evidence-based medicine or any module, and during the semester or during the course, you observe that some of them are not engaged. There is a problem in the engagement level of these students, or they are low achievers, or their attitude is not sound, for example. If you report that and you write description of this situation, so this will call a case study or case report. If the number of students is more than 10, you can call it a case series. Okay, so this is a very simple one of describing this situation. Okay, so it is a case study. If it is less than 10 cases, if it is called case series, if it is more than 10 cases, and it is just reporting incidents that is happening. Okay, so now again, this is one of the observational study. So and it is one of the descriptive study. So what about the cross-sectional study? Cross-sectional study, as you said, Dr. Gamal, I think, said that it is a study in which information is collected from the sample of people or population at a certain point of time. And I will give you an example of that. That's why this kind of study is called the snapshot study. For example, if you have immediate feedback from your student or from your trainee after attending a certain training program or attending certain class or attending certain module, so this is an immediate feedback, and you can collecting this feedback at only one time. So this is called cross-sectional study. So what is the difference between cross-sectional study and longitudinal study? Cross-sectional study is collecting data at one time, but longitudinal study is collecting data at different times. And I'll give you an example about that. So cross-section study where only one set of observation is collected at certain point of time. On the other hand, longitudinal study where 2 or 3 or more set of observation are collected over a specific time. Let us go back to the class of the evidence-based medicine. You are the tutor and you are evaluating the scores of the student at one time. So this is a cross-sectional study. If you are evaluating them all over the year, continuous evaluation at the midterm, at the end of the round, at the final exam, if you are evaluating all that, so this is called a longitudinal study. So this is the difference between cross-sectional study and longitudinal study. They are observational study. They could be descriptive if you are going to just describe, and they could be analytical if you put numbers and you put the percentage, etc. So now we talked about the descriptive part of the observational study, which is related to the quantitative type of study. Now we will talk about the analytical one. Analytical usually contains a cohort study or case control study. And analytical means that we are going to analyze the data and have numbers and have statistical analysis and have computational analysis, etc. So we'll start with the case control study. So what is meant by case control study? Let me give you an example and then we will discuss that. So this is an article which is published in the PMC Medical Education Journal, and it's titled Residents in Difficulty, Just Slow Learners. This is a very simple title, a case control study. So now I want your opinion. What do you think that the researcher did in this study? What's your opinion? Any ideas?
Sorry, doctor, for me the question is unclear, a little bit unclear.
So this is an article which is published in somewhere, and it's entitled Residents in Difficulty, Just Slow Learners. This is a case control study. What do you think the learner did? The researcher did.
Okay, I think he compared two groups, one with the difficulty and other one without the difficulty. And then he searched for the root cause of that.
So the one with difficulty are the cases?
The cases.
And the one and the group without difficulty are the control.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is sharing between these two groups? What is the sharing point of these two groups?
Maybe the cause. He's searching about the cause, if there is any familiar.
Yes, excuse me. He's searching for the cause. Why
Yeah.
some of them having difficulty and some of them are normal. But what is the environment?
It should be the same environment.
Yes, excellent, excellent. So now, as Dr. Noon said, so case control study will start with the people who have the problem. So we have group of residents who are having some problems, and then we will match this group of residents who are having some problems with another group of residents who don't have any problem, though they are all at the same exposure. They are all at the same environment. All the residents are working at the same hospital. They are having the same shifts. They are having the same environment, but some of them are having problem and some of them don't have any problem. So I'm comparing the study group, which is residents who are having problem, to those of the control group who are not having any problem in the same environment. And I am trying to look for the environment. What is the problem in this environment? What help these students to have a good environment to work in, and what makes these these residents are having many problems. Did you get it? So now in the case control study, I started with the problem, with the people who are having problem, and I'm comparing them to some people, to another group of people who are not having the same problem, but all the groups are living in the same environment. Okay? Why I'm doing that? In order to search for any problem in the environment that is causing a problem for the first group. Am I clear? Is it clear?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is clear.
So can you give me an example? I will give you 1 minute. Just we will think about 1 or 2 examples in order to emphasize on the data of how to do case control study. I want you 1 or 2 of you, if you can participate or give us an idea about an example similar to this. Any participation? Hmm?
Dr. Amal, this is me, Mad Sattar.
Mhm.
I am a radiologist. In radiology, maybe case control studies, we are searching for abnormalities in white matter tracts among cases with dyslexia, for example, compared to normal students or normal children.
What is the exposure here?
They are both students in the childhood age group from 7 to 14 years old, for example. And the cases are the children with dyslexia, and the control are normal subjects.
They are in the same environment.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Any other opinion? Any other example? Thank you, Dr. Shayman.
If we examine the presence of H. pylori among the 2 groups, smoker or non-smoker.
Oh, this is an excellent example, but it's not a case control study. Why? Because the environment is different. We have the smoker group who are exposed to an environment, and the non-smoker. So there is different exposure. So we can call this study is a cohort study, because the difference between the case control study and the cohort study is we are going to study 2 groups of people. In the case control study, the condition is that all the cases and the control are exposed to the same environment. But in the cohort study, we can have 2 different groups. Some of them are exposed to smoking, and the other group is not exposed to smoking. So this is an excellent example for the cohort study, not for the case control study. Okay,
Okay.
let me shift it to a better example. If I'm having a group of smokers, okay, and these 100 person who are smoker, okay, and I discovered that 10 of them develop lung cancer, okay, so I will recruit another 10 person from the same group who are all smokers, and these 10 persons are not smokers. So we have 10 persons who are smokers among the total group who are all smokers, and we will recruit another 10 persons who are not having a lung cancer from the same group, and I will go back to know why these 10 persons develop lung cancer in comparison to the other 10 persons who didn't develop lung cancer, though they are all exposed to the same environment, which is smoking. Am I clear?
It's clear.
Okay, so now for the case control study, we are comparing group of people who are having problem with another group of people who are not having the same problem, but the condition here is that those cases and the control should be exposed primarily to the same environment. Okay? Why I'm doing that? In order to check the environment. What is the problem in the environment that is causing a problem to some people? Okay? So this is the case control study. Let us have it like that. So you are a tutor or a teacher, and you are giving also the evidence base or any course, and you discover that some of your students are low achievers in the same class. So I will recruit those students who are low achievers, and I will choose another students from the same class with the same environment who are normal achievers, and I will compare the cases with the normal achievers who are exposed primarily to the same environment. Why? In order to know what is the affecting factor that causes that those students develop problem in comparison to the other students. Okay, so this is a case control study. What about the cohort study? The cohort study, it looks like the case control study, but the condition here is there is no similar exposure. So we will have group of smoker, and we will have another group of non-smoker. We have group of obese person, and we have group of thin person. We will have a group these are one cohort of study of people. If I'm going to study one cohort, for example, people who are eating fast food every day, and I'm going to measure their weight to know if this fast food affecting their weight or not. So I'm studying one group of people who are exposed to one environment, and this is one cohort. I can have two cohorts. For example, if I'm studying a group of people, of students who are attending a morning class, and the other group, compare them to another group of students who are attending the afternoon class to know the academic performance between the two classes. So you know that the exposure here is different. The class 1 is attending in the morning, and class 2 is attending in the afternoon, and I am comparing the academic performance of these two classes. So number 1 is the first cohort, number 2 is the second cohort, and the exposure here is different. So this is a cohort study. So any question about the cohort study or the case control study? Any clarification question? Or any
No,
example that you want to share? Yes, please.
Doctor, about the diagnostic test to determine specificity and sensitivity. when I compare a gold standard test with a new test.
What is the question?
I ask about the diagnostic when comparing a gold standard test with a new diagnostic test for specificity and sensitivity.
Are you doing the test in different groups? Are you doing the test in different groups or in the same group?
Case and control.
Actually, let me clarify something. If you are doing test and you want to test this test, this is not an observational study. It is an experimental study. So this one will shift to the experimental part of the quantitative study. But as we said, the analytical and descriptive part of the observational study of the quantitative, you are not intervening. You are just observing and analyzing data. So you cannot give medication. You are not doing any surgical intervention. You are just observing. Either you observe and you report your observation, it will be a descriptive study, or you may observe and analyze the data in a statistical way, and it is analytical study, but you are not intervening. You are not giving any medication. Once you start to give medication, so it will take us to the experimental type of the quantitative research. So if you are going to do tests on people or to compare two tests, this is an experimental. It's not an observational one. Okay?
Okay.
Any other clarifying question or any comment, or you can share your experience?
Yes, please, if I may ask regarding to the example which Dr. Gamal gave, if he is only observing two different ways of diagnosing using different instrument, will this be, for example, analytical cross-sectional or no? He's just observing.
If he is observing,
Yeah.
yes, will be analytical. But if he is going to observe for one time, it will be cross-sectional. If he's observing for frequent times, for example, he's observing the test today and after 1 week and after 1 month, etc., it will be a longitudinal study. But if it is just observing, he is not ordering the test and he is not evaluating the test. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comment or any other question or any sharing of your experience? Okay, so let me give you an example and you will tell me what kind of research will be this. If I'm going to do training program, and at the end of this training program, I will distribute an evaluation questionnaire for the participants. And in order to know their opinion about this training program, what type of studies will be this one?
Cross-section.
Will be cross-sectional study. Excellent. Okay. If I'm going to have a group of students who are attending whatever class, for example, the locomotor class, for example, and I observed that after the first semester, some of students failed this class. At the end of the exam, at the end of the class, at the end exam of this class, some of the students failed this exam. So I want to know what is the problem. What kind of studies shall I do?
Case control.
How to do it?
I will take the failed group and compare it to the successful one. So they're sharing the same environment, but they're having different result, different outcome. So to search for the reason behind that.
Okay, excellent. Excellent, Dr. Noon. Okay, if I'm running a cardiology clinic And in this cardiology clinic, some of the patients are taking some medication, for example, medication A, and some other are taking medication B. And I'm going to compare the result of the medication during the follow-up period. Who developed any complication and who didn't develop any complication. So I'm comparing patients who are taking medication A with patients who are taking medication B. So what kind of, it is a cohort study. So we are having now two cohorts. Cohort number 1 is a group who are taking medication A, and cohort number 2 are the patients who are taking medication A or B. Okay, so now we'll move to the following type of.
Doctor, I have a question regarding the previous example.
Yes.
I am a little bit confused regarding the previous example because
Yes,
exposure appears for me as an intervention.
You are in the clinic, you are not the one who gives treatment. You are not the one who are prescribing treatment, you are just running the clinic, okay? If you are going to give the treatment, so it will be an experimental study. If you are going to try a new treatment on a group of people, so this will be an experimental study. But if you have those people who are taking the medication previously, so and you are observing them for a certain time in order to evaluate if any complication will happen, so this will be a cohort study, okay?
So I don't interfere in the regimen of treatment.
No, you don't.
They are already yeah,
no.
So this is the difference between experimental and cohort.
Yes, you are not intervening or interfering. You are just observing the people, and you are
the current plan. Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Now we'll move to the experimental design. The experimental design is a detailed plan containing a set of procedures for collecting and using data to investigate the causal relationship between variables. Now we have two types of variables. We have what is called independent variable, and we have what is called the dependent variable. For example, look at this photo or at this animation. We have two types, what's called independent variable and what is called dependent variable. So we have the water is variable and the plant is variable. Which one of them is the independent and which one of them is dependent? What do you think?
The water is independent and results of it as growing of flower is a dependent variable or outcome.
Yes, so the flower is the dependent. It depends on the water and it is moving and it is changing. And the independent is the water, okay? So we have two variables. If I'm going to study the effect of the water on the plant, so I am going and doing an experimental study. So in an experimental study, we are studying the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. This is another example. A patient who is taking medication. So what is the independent variable and what is the dependent variable?
Medication is independent.
Yes, the medication is the independent variable and the patient is a dependent variable because he is depending on the treatment. So if I'm going to study the effect of medication on the patient, so this is what is the core of the experimental study. So the core of experimental study is to study the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So let us pass it. If I'm talking about the education, so dependent variable are the student. The independent variable are the teaching method. If I'm going to study the effect of different teaching methods on the student attainment of knowledge, so this will be some sort of experimental study. So now, experimental study could be classified into two main groups, the randomized control study or the non-randomized control study. So what about the randomized control study, which means that I'm going to select randomly group of people who is called the study group, and another group of people will be the control group. So the key of randomized control studies is the randomization. And how to do randomization? We have many methods to do randomization, either by closed envelope, either by computer way, either by whatever. So it's not the scope of talking about randomization now, but the characteristics of experimental study is to have randomization, is to have a study group and control group, and is to have manipulation, which is manipulation, is that we are going to study the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So the researcher here is the one who is playing with the variables. He is controlling the independent variable in order to study its effect on the dependent variable. So let us give some example, clinical example. If I'm having group of people, patients like that, who are having chronic leg ulcer, varicose ulcer, whatever, and I have a clinic for treatment of the ulcer. This clinic is taking care, for example, of 1,000 patients every month. So I will randomly select, for example, 100 patients by any way of randomization, by computer, by closed envelope, by whatever. I will select 100 patients and I will give them some ointment, which made, of course, made of cactus or anything, okay? And this will be the study group. And I will select another randomly 100 patients who are going to have cream, which is inert cream, placebo cream, nothing in it, okay? And I will compare the study group, who are the people, the patients who are taking the cactus ointment, compared to those who are taking the placebo ointment. So this is a randomized control study. Of course, it is ethical because we are not going to do anything which is against ethics. We are going just to try. And actually, randomized control trial or study, it needs some taking care of its ethical point of view. But anyway, this is an example of a randomized control study. So we are going to randomly select group of patients. We'll give them some medication, local medication, and the other group of patients who are the control group will give them placebo, and we are going to compare the results of these two groups. This is another example of randomized control study in medical education. This group of researchers, they use a simulator-based teaching to improve student knowledge and competencies. So what did they do? They selected group of students and they enrolled them in a simulator-based teaching in the skill lab or whatever, and they compared this group of students to another group of students who are taught in a traditional way of teaching. So they select randomly both groups, and at the end of the research, they did some exams or something like that to test the knowledge of these two groups of students. So this is called a randomized control study. Actually, I don't like trial here. Trial usually is applied to the clinical, not for the medical. I like to say it is, I prefer to call it randomized control study, not trial, because trial is something different. Anyway, so now this is an example. This is a class. I will randomly select a group of students. Okay. So this is a randomization by whatever method, and I recruit this student to give them a traditional way of teaching, and the other group of students, I will give them, for example, the course in a problem base, and I compare the two groups. I will compare the academic performance of the two groups, and this is will call the randomized control study. Okay, so this is the essence of randomized control trial. So bypass this one. So any comment or any clarifying question about this point until we move to the non-randomized control trial? So is it clear the randomized control study? So what about the non-randomized? Yes, please.
I'm just saying that's clear.
It is clear. Okay, thank you. So what is the difference between true experimental and quasi-experimental? The word quasi means as if it is experimental. It is not experimental, but as if it is experimental. So when we use a quasi-experimental design, when we don't have the luxury for doing randomization. So quasi-experimental design is a research method that seeks to evaluate the causal relationship between the variables. It's the same like experimental study, but without the full control over the independent variable, which means that without doing randomization. So if you don't have the luxury to do randomization, you can just do quasi-experimental study. And we have many types of quasi-experimental study, but the simple one of them is if I have group of students, I will apply, for example, new methods of teaching. So I will do first the pre-test before applying this way of teaching. And then after they finish, the same group of students, I will do for them post-test. This is called the pre-test, post-test design of quasi-control study. Actually, we are going to highlight the quasi-control study in the residential session, inshallah, in January. But this is just an intro for what is meant by quasi-experimental study. So quasi-experimental study, the aim of it is to study the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable, but without doing any randomization. It is more easy, but actually it is sometimes it is weak because sometimes you don't have a non-equivalent group. Sometimes the researcher could be biased in choosing the sample, etc. But anyway, it is one of the good experimental study if you don't have the luxury to do randomization. So to wrap up this part, we talked about the quantitative research, and we know that it is an experimental type or observational type, and we highlighted every one of these experimental research. Now, which one is better? Actually, this is called the hierarchy of evidence, and randomized control study is considered the gold standard of doing clinical research. But you can see at the top of the pyramid, not the randomized control study. We have the systematic review and meta-analysis. Systematic review and meta-analysis are considered the top at the hierarchy of evidence. So if you want to have a research and you want to have reference, you have to look for the literature who are having many systematic review and meta-analysis. Systematic review is a type of comprehensive literature review in order to collect data, and it's meant to critically analyze many papers in order to have some data. But the meta-analysis is in-depth evaluating many articles in order to develop a single conclusion that has greater statistical power. That's why meta-analysis and systematic review are at the top of the hierarchy of evidence. So now we talked about the quantitative research. What about the qualitative research and mixed type of research? So quickly, we are not going to go through the very details of qualitative research, but you feel free that you can send to ask me about your project if you want to do it in whatever type of it. Feel free to contact me if you want to have any details about the qualitative research, because actually it is sometimes difficult for some people to work in qualitative research. But anyway, qualitative research is a research of observing people in their natural environment. So you are observing people in their interaction between each other, in their behaviors, in their action, etc. So it is the research of just observing and no numbers in it. You are observing what people say, what people hear, what people do, etc. So the qualitative research is usually a subjective research because it has no numbers. On the other hand, quantitative research is an objective research. Qualitative research, usually we use smaller sample size. You can use maybe 15 or 20. But in quantitative research, in order to have a good statistical analysis, you have to have a larger sample size and you have to have a good calculation of your sample size. That's why Qualitative research is not generalizable. What is meant by generalizable? You cannot apply it for the general population. You have a hypothesis, but in order to prove this hypothesis and to make it more generalizable, you have to do it or to change it into quantitative research. So quantitative research is more important than qualitative research, but qualitative research could be helpful in many ways. It could generate hypotheses, it could highlight new ideas, new attitude, new anything. We have many types of qualitative research, like the ethnography, which is studying people and culture. And this is reporting how people live, how people eat, what people eat, how they behave, etc. And we have the grounded theory, we have the phenomenology, and we have the case study. Quickly, we will go through examples of each one of them. For example, as we said, the ethnography. If this researcher is going to study the culture of this group of people and he will reporting their case, so this is will called ethnography. And also, if you are going to report the attitude of your student in your class, it could be an ethnography also. So if we give it an example, how medical educationalists impact the culture of learning in their workplace. So this is an ethnography. The phenomenology, it is describing a phenomena or new phenomena. For example, this picture is describing a new phenomena. Taking selfies, using a lot of media. So how does the extensive use of mobile phone affect people behavior? It could be a phenomenology. Okay. Also, one of the phenomena now is that using the media, for example, if you want to do a conference, you can do it online conference after the COVID-19. So it become a phenomena that to change the face-to-face conferences into online conferences. Okay. So case study, it looks like the case study that we use it in the quantitative research. So it is just highlighting or reporting a case within the real life, an abnormal event, an adverse event, something new, etc., without writing any numbers in it. This is an example of case study. What is the effect of medical education diploma, or what is the effect of medical education course on participant competencies? If you are going to describe their competencies, it is improved or not improved, their attitude, etc. So it will be a case study. Now the grounded theory is the most difficult one of them. And the grounded theory approach does not begin with the existing theory. It generates a theory, but it cannot prove the theory because, as we said, we need numbers to prove any theory. And if you are going to shift to numbers, it will be a quantitative research. So if you are going to start, for example, and this is an example of grounded theory, which type of formative assessment method that lead to acquisition of operative skills among surgical residents. I don't know which type of formative assessment. I'm doing the test, and then after that, I will discover that, for example, the workplace-based assessment is the best one. So I have a theory now. So I initiate a theory that this type of assessment is the best for acquisition of operative skills, etc. So this is how to work in qualitative research. So the characteristic of qualitative research is that it is a textual one. You are not writing any numbers. It is flexible, elastic. It doesn't require any huge amount of sample, and it is very flexible. But actually, as we said, it takes place in the natural setting, but it doesn't need to be generalizable. So as regard the study design, can I use the AI to decide what kind of study design I use? Yes. Any one of the tools that I said before, the OpenRead, for example, the Gemini, the Elicit, the Consensus, the Perplexity, all these sides, if you write your research question and you ask the AI, suggest many methods of study design. It will suggest and it will highlight which one is the best to do your research design. And you can take it and think about it. Don't take it as I said for granted. You can take it and think about it, and you can choose which one will give you the best result according to your facilities that you have, according to your expertise, according to your teams that you are working with, etc. So the artificial intelligence can help you to choose one of the study designs that it will help you in doing your research. So now we choose the research design, but we still have to know how to gather the data. Any question in the study design?
Sorry, Dr. Amal, I still confused about diagnostic test study. Is it intervention study, so it is experimental?
Dr. Kamal, give me an example.
To compare a new diagnostic test with a gold standard one in two group, patient group and the healthy group.
If you are going to test a new one and this is your idea, it is an experimental study. You are going to try something new on a group of people, okay?
Any intervention, diagnostic or therapeutic, it is
Yes.
experimental.
Yes, of course.
Randomized, called randomized clinical.
If you are going to have some group of people and you are going, we don't do any randomization, and you are going to have some group of you. For example, you will have a clinic whose you are going to apply today. For example, the test. And tomorrow you are going to apply the test for another group of patients, and you didn't do any randomization. This is quasi-experimental study. If you do any randomization, it will be a randomized control study. But this is...
If we have inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria.
Of course, any experimental study should have an inclusion and exclusion criteria and should be highlighted. So before doing any research, any experimental research, you have to highlight what is the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. And then you have to highlight what type of intervention you are going to do. This is number 2. And number 3, you have to say, are you going to do randomization or non-randomization? So this is the condition of doing a randomized controlled experimental study. Okay, again, let me clarify myself again. Number 1, if you are going to do any experimental study, you have to decide. Number 1, are you going to do randomization or non-randomization? You have to highlight who is your group, what is the inclusion and exclusion criteria, and you have to decide what type of intervention you are going to do. Okay? So this is the criteria of doing randomized control study or experimental study.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Okay, let me ask you a question. After you finish your FAMR project and your FAMR residential session and you have your certificate and you go back to your workplace, to your department, okay? If one researcher is going to know your effect on your department, did you change your department as regard the methodology of teaching, assessment, etc.? What kind of qualitative research will be there? 1. Again, you finished your group of attendees in the FAMR, and you go back to your departments, and one researcher wants to see the effect of your after you finish the FAMR in your department, your effect on your department. What kind of qualitative research will be that one? .
Case report?
It's called case study.
Oh, case study?
Case study, yes. So the research, excellent. So the researcher is going to know the effect, he's going to study the effect of you as a Fumarian on your departments, okay? So he's studying your attitude or your behavior in your departments and what is the effect that you did in your department. So it is a case study, yes, excellent. Okay. So if a researcher wants to know in the ML Web group, he wants to study your communication with each other as a familiar in the ML Web.
Ethnography. Ethnography.
It could be ethnography, yes. It could be ethnography because he's going to study the community of practice in the ML Web on the attitude of the participant. Yes, it is ethnography. Okay, thank you so much. Any question in this one, which is difficult, the qualitative research? So, in order to collect data for research as regards the experimental research, we are usually collecting data from our patient or from student if we do randomization, etc. But for the observational research, we depend mainly on the observation. And sometimes we use the questionnaires. As a questionnaire, we can use a pre-format questionnaire. You can use any questionnaire, or even you can ask the AI to do questionnaires. So whoever wants to do a questionnaire after finishing any study, you can ask the AI to do questionnaire, and there is a site called the Taskate, which is specific for doing questionnaires. Also, you can ask Gemini, ChatGPT, Jenny, OpenRead, etc. But you have to write a good prompt in order to have a good questionnaire. So you will define, I want a questionnaire about so and so, and I want a Likert score, whatever, yes, no, strongly agree, etc. So you have to define what kind of Likert score you are going to use, and you have to define what are the numbers of questions that you want and for whom you are going to deliver this question, and it can give you a questionnaire, but you have to revise it also, of course, before you apply it. So for the qualitative data collection, usually we use a focus group discussion. As we said, that the sampling is a qualitative research. We usually have a small and non-randomized sample, and we usually use a focus group discussion, just discussion with the people and to collect data. And then when you have the data like that, you are going to categorize this data, which means what is meant by categorization is to put the data that is similar with each other in order to be able to analyze it. For example, the red data are for one question, the blue data for another question, etc. And then you have to analyze it. And actually, we have many tools for artificial intelligence in order to analyze the data, but we are not going to discuss it right now. The last type of study is the mixed type of study, the qualitative and the quantitative type of study. Mixed type of study doesn't mean that you are going to mix two qualitative data or two quantitative data. No, you have to have one qualitative data and one quantitative data in order to have a mixed type of study, which means that I'm collecting qualitative textual data with quantitative numerical data in order to have a mixed method, which is called triangulation. So this type of research is called the triangulated research. What is triangulation? Actually, triangulation is a military term, which means attacking one target from different direction. So in order to have a good idea about something, we are using mixed qualitative and quantitative research, and mixed method actually now become very popular in the medical education research. It requires time, energy, and resources, but actually its result is very unique and it can be published very easily. So triangulation is a research technique that involves the use of multiple methods or sources of data to increase the validity and the reliability of your findings. And usually you mix the qualitative data with the quantitative data in order to have a good result. So to wrap up, we talked about the art and science of doing scientific research. And as we said, we start our research with the research idea. And if I'm okay with my research idea, I shift to the formulation of the research question. And then I have to choose a good research methodology, either qualitative or quantitative or mixed type. And then I have to decide what type of data I'm going to collect, either experimental or intervention or observation, etc. And then I have to decide how to analyze this data. And then after that, I have to write my manuscript. And writing my manuscript starting from the title, the abstract, the introduction, the material method, the discussion, and references. We are going to cover it, inshallah, next time. So next time also we'll talk about what are the tools that can help me in writing and analyzing my data for writing my scientific research. And the title of the next session will be the anatomy and physiology of writing a scientific research, starting from the titles till the references, and we will have some highlight on the tables and the figures. Thank you so much, and we have 5 minutes for asking any question or highlighting any point, or for giving us any of your experience in doing research. So any questions? Any clarifying questions?
Good evening, Dr. Amal. I just have a
evening.
specific question regarding the sample size in different clinical trials. Sometimes
we will highlight the sample size in the next session, because during talking about the methodology, one of the part of the methodology of writing the research is to how to measure the sample size. So we'll highlight it next time, inshallah.
Thank you.
Any other question? So thank you so much. Next time, inshallah, I want you, we will take about 10 minutes in the beginning of the session, and I want you to revise your research project. You have to clarify or to know in which part of this research schema it fell on. Choose in any part. Is your research is a quantitative research or qualitative research or mixed type of research? And if it is quantitative, what type of research you are going to do? So next time, inshallah, prepare yourself. We want to listen. I want to hear from you. Which type? Tell me the title and tell me your opinion about the methodology of your research, and maybe we can modify or do fine-tuning of your ideas about doing research. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you, Doctor. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amal.
Thank you.
Thank
Welcome.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.